Well, hello friends, Coach Bob with you, and today we are going to be doing Worship on Wheels from my hometown of Valdosta, Georgia. I love Valdosta, as you know. Ooh, run the old yellow light there, Coach. But I love this town, and it always makes me feel refreshed and revived because I am from here. And what I'm going to talk about today is very interesting. It's about overflow. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know what you're saying. What does that mean? What is all that about? Well, have you ever felt like that old crusty sponge? You know, the one that you buy a sponge, you know, that you work around the sink and you clean stuff with, and you forget to wet it for a couple of days, and it just gets dried and cracked. And if you try to bend it, it'll just break, and it'll feel like sandpaper. You could sand the skin off your arm with it. So we're going to talk about that and what all this means and how we can keep from becoming that old crusty old sponge. So let's read that Bible verse and then we'll talk. All right, so the Bible verse is 1 Thessalonians 3:12. It says this: "May the Lord make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else, just as ours does for you." All right, well, there you go, man. That's a pretty clear cut, isn't it? Well, you know, that old love overflow thing, what does that even mean, and how does that apply? There again, all of the concepts that we talk about on this channel, they are just so cool. And I've had this discussion many times with friends who, you know, are empty. Now, you know, that's something that we've been talking a lot about, how God leads us beside the still waters and He makes us lie down in the green pastures. And also that, you know, we have to push on, but there's that time to refill. And so what we want to do is talk about that refilling. How does that impact not only us, but others? Scooter. If you see a scooter, you got to yell scooter. That's the rule. That is the rule. I didn't make it. It just is the rule. All right, so you find yourself in that predicament, right? You're waking up every day grumpy, and you feel tired and beat up, and you're like, what have I got to do to get squared away, man? You know, I'm snapping at the kids. I'm snapping at my wife. I bit the dog the other day. I mean, life is just, it's just freaking me out, and I don't know what to do to get it all together. Well, I can tell you that just deciding to be more loving is not going to get it done. It just won't. We want to deceive ourselves. We want to tell ourselves that we are in total control and that we have the ability to just love at a whim, and that we'll never grow weary of doing the right thing. Check it out. Oh, wedding at the Crescent. Yeah, that's a beautiful place right there, the Crescent. We're deceiving ourselves. We will grow tired. We will grow weary of doing the right thing, and we will become that crusty sponge, because in and of ourselves we can only last for so long before we start looking for something in return. You know, the old, well, I scratched your back, now it's time for you to scratch my back, or well, I was nice to you, I loaned you the garden tool, but you don't do anything nice for me. So we have to figure out a way to where we can just give, and honestly expect nothing in return. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get anything in return. I'm saying you should expect nothing in return. That is very difficult, because, you know, what happens again, we love out of our own strength, and then when we don't get what we want, we become bitter. We get angry at that person. Well, you know, if you really loved me, you would do this and you would do that, and we start trying to determine what love should look like. You're looking at their love and the way they behave through your lens, and you don't know what that person is pouring out in other areas. You just don't know. So how do we do it? How do we end up loving and expecting nothing in return without becoming that crusty sponge? We are the sponge, by the way, as you know, and we want to give out of our overflow, not out of what requires us to stay pliable and fresh. We want to actually give out of our overflow. Here's what that looks like. So you're the sponge, and God is the big old water faucet in the kitchen. If you take that sponge, even the old crusty one, and you turn that spigot on wide open and you get right up under it, right? That water softens that sponge, and eventually the sponge reaches its full capacity and water just floods out of it. And it just can't absorb anymore. It's just simple physics. You can only hold so much before you start overflowing. And we are to do that. We're supposed to step into that water flowing of God's love. We step into it, and that's how we become overfilled. And when we become overfilled, we start spilling out on others. And the closer we are, the more we spill. Now, as you can see, if you're never stepping out of the line of that love flow, out of that flow of water, then we never become the crusty sponge. It's when we start thinking, man, I can do it apart from the flow, I can do it on my own, then we step out and the sponge is never refilled. It's constantly being wrung out and wrung out and wrung out and wrung out. And then you're like, I need it. I need somebody to do something for me. I need it. And without it, I can't be happy. I can't love anymore because I am empty. Yeah, you see it now. You see it. Because you will be empty if you step away from the flow. You got to stay in it. You know, Jesus talks about how he is, gives you living water, and that's what it is. It's that living water that flows through us that gives us a supernatural ability to never run out and to never be that dry, crusty, old sponge. Will we fail every now and then? Yes, we will. Will we get a little crusty on the edges every now and then? Yes, we will. But as long as we remember to lay down beside the still water and let him fill us up, we'll be able to step right back out into that world and love our fellow man as we are instructed to do. You know, the Bible says, how will you know my children? And the Bible says this, you will know my children for the love they have one for another. That is the litmus test. It's not what kind of spider you ride, or how cool your clothes are, or how much money you have, or any of that stuff. You will know God's children by the love they have one for another. And I'm going to tell you, if you find that crusty old mean nasty schmo that says, I'm this, I'm that, just walk away. Just kindly and politely walk away. Because if they're not loving out of the overflow, if they're not soft and sensitive to things, which means soft and sensitive to people, like a soft sponge, putting that soothing water on everything they come into contact with, well, let me tell you, they ain't standing under the king. But I know this, I know you are. You know why I know that? Because you, yes, you are loved, and so am I, and that is really great news. Now, do me a favor, go out and change the world. I'll see you on the road really, really soon.